welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sara.
And I'm Amy.
The lovely Amy O'Connor, who you all know and love, here joining us as a co-host today. Allie is sunning themselves in Mallorca. And Amy and I are bringing to you sick, raspy voices that we hope you enjoy throughout this episode. The sexy, sick voice.
Sexy podcast voices, yeah. As Sarah is coughing up a lung while I'm speaking.
ASMR. I don't like voice ASMR, so we're not going to go there. We are here to talk NWSL, to talk international break. I am so excited for both of these. But about 2 days ago, I texted you, Amy, and said, it's cheaper to go to Kansas City, it's cheaper to go to London for me to watch England host the US Women's National Team than it is to go to Kansas City for the final. And I think I'll just put you on blast right now. You told everybody that you wouldn't come with me.
Yeah, for valid reasons. Yeah, that's
for valid reasons.
That's crazy that it's cheaper for you to do that, to be honest. I mean, I can't imagine how expensive it is to go to Kansas City or how expensive these game tickets are, but I know that the England-US game is pretty close to a sellout, which is amazing. Again, I mean, the US does draw crowds and so do England, so it's great for the game. But listen, I would love to have gone to England, hopped on a flight and just, forgot all my responsibilities in life here, but I'm starting a new job, so I can't, unfortunately. But shout out to me starting a new job. But
shout out
to me starting a new job. I'd love to have gone, and I wish we could have gone. It would have been a fun weekend for sure.
But before we get onto all of that, we have to rewind to this past weekend and talk NWSL and the championship. So let's get into all of it. The Orlando Pride are Shield winners and NWSL Final winners. They did the double. They were the 5th team only in NWSL history to do so. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. They were the 2nd team, technically. North Carolina did it twice. So this is the 3rd time that it has ever happened that somebody's done the double. They've won the Shield. They've won the final. They were first throughout the whole season, and they did it in Marta's, potentially, we don't know, last season, Barbara Banda, with the one and only goal as the Pride took down the Spirit, 1-0. What are your thoughts on this game as a whole, Amy?
I thought the game itself, quality-wise, was poor. I can't actually remember going back, and I watched the whole game live, but going back, I can't think of any successions of play where I was like, oh, this is a good pattern of play. This is going to lead to an opportunity or some great movement there. Just felt it was very disjointed from both teams. Maybe the occasion weighed on them, which often happens in the final. Both teams go into it, understandably with nerves, and they don't want to be the person who makes the mistake that costs a goal, which stifles creativity. And I think that really showed in this final. It wasn't a final for the ages. It won't be remembered as something that went down as a footballing masterpiece by any means. Even the goal itself, I thought, Banda took it really well, but there was some really poor defensive displays for the goal. Esme Morgan, the goalkeeper, I thought they both could have done better for the goal. And then Washington Spirit really didn't create anything. They created one chance of note when Hatch hit the post with a header, but I don't really think that they troubled Morehouse. There weren't a lot of shots on goal that were causing problems.
Yeah, I think what you say about a final, usually those big games don't go well. Super Bowls are usually really boring. And it's because that moment just gets too big. But I also kind of wonder if the expectation that everybody had that these two teams were it was going to be a goal fest, right? This is Orlando with Barbara Banda. This is Washington Spirit, and they tucked away so many goals throughout the season. I wonder if part of us thinking that it was a bit of a boring final was because our expectations were that we were going to see a lot of goals. A lot of people said this might be 2-2. It'll go into overtime. Maybe it was also just expectations versus reality. And not enough credit was given to the Orlando Pride defense or the Washington Spirit defense. It was all given to the offense, and it was just an expectations versus reality type of situation here.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But we look back on the games that got them to the final, and yes, Orlando scored more goals than Washington did. But we expected Washington perhaps to get a last gasp equalizer like they did against Gotham. They've been known to do that. They did the same thing against Bay, where they beat Bay in the final minutes. So, I was expecting maybe Washington to pull something out. It felt like that type of season for them, where they were a little bit getting the luck because they deserved it. They finished second, deservedly so, in the table. And I thought maybe they'd just come up with something late, but they didn't. Could say that both teams defensively were solid, besides the goal. I did think Morehouse had some shaky minutes for Orlando, where she came to claim some crosses, but didn't really, claim them convincingly at all. So, yeah, it was pretty drab, I'll be honest. I can't really, I'm not finding too many highlights when I'm trying to, articulate honestly, for this game. I'm struggling.
I mean, same. And that's what we were briefly talking about before we hit record was WSL Final is it's usually not a good game. You think about 2022 when it was hosted in DC, and was that 2022?
We went to that game together.
Or was that? Yeah, we did. And I was sitting next to you and the whole game. What was I just saying? Like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is so terrible. Because I was saying that it was terrible for the league, because this is when you're going to get a lot of people tuning in who maybe wouldn't be tuning in throughout the season. And we wanted to be a good display for the league, and it just wasn't quite that. Last year, you reminded me, was actually pretty darn fun. We had Neely Martin in goal for Gotham FC. We had a field player putting on the keeper jersey by the end of it. So that was, I feel like last year, yes, was the anomaly, but usually these games just aren't so much. And I guess that leads us to this question. I feel like we have to talk about the Shield. We have to talk about the Shield in comparison to the NWSL Championship. And this is only the third team in the history of the NWSL to do the double, which means that almost every year, the team that wins the Shield is not the team that's technically crowned champion. And I don't think that would be a problem, except for the fact that I feel like nobody cares about the Shield. Nobody remembers who won it, really. Nobody gives them the same type of respect that is put on the winner of the actual NWSL final. Is that a problem, Amy?
Yeah, it's a massive problem. There's no value in the league winning, right? Like, if you win the league, there's no value in it. Like, last season, San Diego won the Shield. San Diego. And then fired Casey Stoney. So, like, it doesn't really have any value, you're right. And for me, it's just the top 6 places in the league that are important, because then you go into the playoff, and that's when the real stuff starts.
Now the top 8.
Well, top 8 now, yeah, sorry. I just feel like you played a whole season. It's a long season. The most consistent team should be rewarded for winning, and they're not. And I guess this is also part of my heritage, my football heritage, where I've grown up, and the winners of the league are the winners of the league. There's no playoff system. And it does go back to the question, well, why do the Americans have to have a playoff system? Is it just purely because you want the entertainment value?
I really do think
that is.
It's partially that, and it's partially that that's how sports in this country are always structured. You look at the professional leagues that have been around the majority of the time. You look at like Major League Baseball, and the structure of it was you have a division. You're supposed to win your division, and then the winners of the divisions go and play in the playoffs. So it became a way, because the country's so big, to create a system where we could get to the best team without everybody having to travel everywhere. But that's so antiquated and done. Nobody just plays within their division anymore. It's not necessary. On the other hand, I do really think that there is, at least for the United States, an entertainment value in the playoffs that the league benefits from so greatly that I think wiping it away might be a problem for the league. I go back and forth, because when I played in college, there was one year where we won the regular season, and then we did not win in the conference tournament. And then we did not get a bid to the NCAA tournament. And I was sitting there like, this is ridiculous. We literally are the best team in this conference, and we're not going to represent this conference. And so I was really pissed about it. But as a fan of the NWSL, I love the playoffs.
Well, the playoffs also draws in crowds, but then there's that other caveat where if you don't have the playoffs, then does it draw in crowds for the regular season? Because there's no playoffs, you have to show
Right.
up for the regular season games. I mean, Washington Spirit is a really good example of this. They sold out pretty much all of their playoff games at home, which is great. Like Audi
Yeah.
Field is really nice. It's a good place to go and watch football. But would it have sold out more frequently during the season if there wasn't a playoff system where fans could be like, "Oh, we're going to go to the playoffs now. Our team's good. Like this season, we're gonna finish second. We're gonna do all, we're gonna get into the final. We're gonna go to these playoff games." So
Mm.
yeah, I can see both sides of it, and I also agree with you on the. If it feels really unfair to be the most consistent team in the
Yeah.
league all season and then not win the league and not
Yeah.
win the NWSL, which is what San Diego felt last year. Whereas
Yes.
this year, justice was kind of done. Orlando won the Shield. They deserved to win the Shield. They went on that massive unbeaten run, and then they won the playoffs. It's really hard to do that, though. It's so hard because these
Yeah.
are one-off games, one-off, and
Yeah.
anyone can win. Anyone can beat anyone. We saw that last season with Gotham.
Yeah. Gotham were not the best team last year.
Absolutely
Absolutely
not.
not. They were the best team in the last 3 games. And that is it. And then they were crown champions. I guess I just feel like we're living in this in-between space right now where we're like pretending that the shield means something. And I don't think it means anything to anybody other than the players who win it. It's a massive accomplishment. I think it comes with some money. That's wonderful. But in terms of fans, when we talk about who won the league each year, we do not talk about who won the shield and we don't differentiate. So to me, it just kind of feels like this dance that we're doing. And I kind of feel like if we're going to do the playoffs, let's not pretend. Let's not even try to make a big deal over the shield winner. That's great. You won the shield. However, let's not pretend that means something to the fans, or let's figure out how to get all of us to care about it more. I don't know what that answer is, but I would love, in an ideal world, I would love to figure out a way for all of us to value it as equal and almost see it as two winners of the league, if you will.
Well, I think you need a cup competition that has value, which you could then take away the playoffs from the league system. So, like European competition, obviously in Europe, we have the Champions League. That's a huge competition.
Yeah.
In England, we have the FA Cup and the Conti Cup. Whereas here you had that Summer Cup series, which, in all fairness, was not super successful. The final kind of really went under the radar for everybody. I don't think anyone knew it was a final. It wasn't very well advertised. Gotham kind of didn't care. It was very much an afterthought. And then
Very
we have
much.
these CONCACAF competitions where teams are playing each other. I mean, Gotham was going all over the place, Jamaica, and just battering teams. And it just didn't seem to be very, very fruitful or like productive for any of the teams in the NWSL to do these, like,
Yeah.
these games didn't seem to have any benefit and they didn't seem to have a lot of value to them. I know when they played the Mexican teams, there was some competition there, and I'd like to see more crossover in that respect. But I don't think outside of that league that there's super strong competition anywhere else.
Yeah, I would agree. Before we move on from the NWSL, I feel like we haven't even touched on the game. There's a couple more things that I feel like we need to talk about. And first and foremost, I guess let's start with Marta, because her mom was there. Watching her play in the United States for the first time, it was the first time her mom was in the United States. Was she not the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? She was. I cried every time she came on the screen.
Precious. Loved it. Loved that moment.
I should have said at the top, we posted this on social media, but it's worth noting here. We've been at the NWSL final as media for the past 2 years, and it just didn't work this year for a lot of reasons, including the fact that the day job just got in the way, and it was mainly that. And so we're sorry we couldn't deliver content, but listen, we were on the Zoom conferences, we were on the press conferences, we've got all of that in our bank to deliver to you as well. But I feel like there's a lot you can gather as well from the TV that you can't gather when you're there, and vice versa. And one of those was that I got to see a lot of flashes of Marta's adorable mom. And it really did feel like it was written in the stars for Marta this year.
Yeah, it was a really appropriate ending to the season for Marta and for Orlando. And, there was a lot of hype around Marta, as there should be. We don't know when she's going to announce her retirement from football. I mean, I know she's retired from international football now, but we don't really know when she's going to, hang up the boots fully. And
I will say, though, real quick about the international, she was asked about that. Speaking of conferences, she was asked about that on the pregame press conference, and she, in reference to the World Cup being held in Brazil in 2027. Yep. And she didn't say no, no, no. She first of all, she always gives the most thoughtful answers, which I really appreciate from her. She basically said that's no longer her goal. That's not something she's necessarily working towards. But should the Brazilian national team ask her for anything, she just wants to help her home country in a World Cup where they're playing it at home. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see another call up for Marta.
How old will she be in that World Cup?
She's 38 now, and it's 2024. Add 3, 41.
41. I mean, it's still doable. 41's not, it's not past it. I mean, we're looking at players like Ronaldo's still playing right now, and he's, up there. And I think that once you take care of yourself, and she is, and managing her minutes as an older player, but she's still got it. She's still quick. She's not slow. I would love to see her continue to play as long as she can. And I know we've seen Christine Sinclair hang it up this season, which is also sad, another great of the game. But if Marta can be any benefit to Brazil, she will. She'll do anything she can for them. As as a host nation, you want the World Cup to be successful and you want to win it in your home, as I've witnessed when England won the Euros in 2022. Like, there's no feeling like winning it at home. And if she's a player or she's a coach or she's an ambassador, whatever it is, she's going to do it. And I'm just excited that she's going to stick around in football, because I think people need Marta to stick around in football and be that person. Like you said, she always gives thoughtful answers, and she's always going to be a role model for young kids, especially girls growing up. And she needs to be there to share her stories and to also provide opportunities for young girls in Brazil, because the way she grew up, where she was traveling a ridiculous amount of mileage to go and practice. It was like days away where she had to go Vasco da Gama and play. It's insane how much it wasn't an opportunity for her to play, but she created one. And now look where she is, and look who she's become. I'm just like really happy for Marta that she won this, and really happy that she dropped the F-bomb live on TV, because that was hilarious.
Thank you for that. I forgot that happened. That was wonderful. It's funny because that post game was great. Her interviews always make me sob, and that one I was cackling. I didn't hear anything after she dropped the F-bomb on live television.
Oh, Laurie Lindsay was like, oh.
All right, the final piece we have to discuss, because we can't move on from this without talking about Washington Spirit. A tough loss for them in the final, but like you said, it does feel fair. First place team gets first place. The second place team gets second place. But it has to be asked, they just really didn't look like they had a spark. You used the word disjointed. I feel like that really applies to Washington Spirit. What happened? Is it just, I feel like, in my opinion, this is just going late into the season. They've had a lot of injuries throughout the year. This was tired bodies. They went into overtime with Bay FC in their first game of the playoffs. They went into overtime and then pens with Gotham in their second game of the playoffs. And then they come into the final exhausted. For me, I think that's what did them in. I think they were spent emotionally and physically.
Yeah, they didn't look like they had any sort of creative spark about them, and it could be that they were tired. They also started a phenomenal amount of rookies this year.
What a rookie class, though. What a rookie class.
Amazing rookie class. But, you can also not blame the rookies for not performing in a final. They're rookies, and this is a big occasion for them. I thought that, for me, I like Trinity Rodman. I think there's something about her, but there's also something about her that annoys me, where she's constantly trying to get players sent off or dive in. I just think she needs to take that out of her game. I don't like that about her game, and I thought she could have been way more productive if she wasn't rolling around on the floor so much. I wanted to see more of Trinity Rodman. We've seen this happen to her in big games with the US too, where she kind of just like, something happens to her where she gets caught up in the whole, I need to get this person off, or I need to fall on the floor to make something happen. No, you don't. Stay on your feet. Just get on with the game. I know she gets targeted. I know that. But for that, like there was a whole player camera thing. I don't know if you know about this.
I actually saw this on social media because somebody posted and was like, why am I only watching one player? What is this stream? And everybody was like, no, 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 this is the star cam, the player cam, which I don't love that idea, but you got to try things out.
Hate that. I hated it. I hated
for
the
those
idea.
Who don't know, Amy, what is it quickly?
So basically this game was broadcast on like multiple channels here in the US. So CBS had the rights, so CBS just mainstream CBS, not CBS Sports. Then Paramount Plus also was streaming it, and then I think Fubo also had it. But Paramount Plus had like the build up to the game on, and then all of a sudden, if you were watching it on Paramount Plus, it switched to this like star cam or like one player, basically just following one player. So it was kind of confusing for people. They didn't understand why they weren't watching the full game and why they were just watching Trinity Rodman running around.
Close up too. Yeah. It wasn't even like a full field. It was just a close up on Trinity Rodman. Yeah, I was watching. It
was poorly communicated. No, they didn't tell people that they were going to do it. It just happened. They just switched to this camera, and everybody was like, "What is happening?" And so, like, a couple of people had texted me and were like, "Are you watching the Trinity Rodman camera?" And I was like, "LOL, absolutely not." I switched to CBS. I was like, you should put it on CBS where the regular stream is happening.
Definitely should have been communicated better. I was at a friend's house and one of them was like, is it ever going to be easy to watch women's sports? Like, why it should have just been, you know what? CBS owns the rights, but you can watch it on Paramount Plus if you want. And that was the issue. But hey, you tried it. I watched a movie when I was in high school that was just, say it was a star cam, but it was all on Zinedine Zidane. And it was for 90 minutes. And that was the art of it. And it was so boring.
I mean, it was boring because like you can't see any of the build up around it. So like you can't see what's happening in relation to what the player's doing. So it has really zero impact on you because you don't know what else is going on. I mean, you can see Trinity Rodman rolling around and trying to get people sent off close up, but you can't really see much else.
The only interesting part is that you realize how little these players actually touch the ball in the game. It's like so minute. But I agree with what you said to bring it back about Trinity Rodman. I felt like everything that you said, yes, she's targeted, but I also think this is something she's gotten better at, but still has space to grow in. Her ability to stay mentally locked in with her team and not have her focus drawn elsewhere where it's trying to draw fouls or whatever it is she's still so young. She's like the age of all of the rookies right now. So people forget that because she's been in the league for so long. But she's growing in it. And I just think it was also kind of like a young mentality in the sense that it felt like she thought she had to do everything instead of relying on her fellow teammates to help her out.
Yeah, there was that in the beginning too. I thought the coverage at the beginning was pretty good. Also, the pregame, I thought they did a good job of that, and I enjoyed the people they had on there. Lola Bonta, Laura Harvey. I thought they were fun people to have on, and then they had some players come on and interview them before the game. But they did interview Trinity Rodman before the game, and it seemed like she was taking a lot of leadership and responsibility for the team. And you're right, she's not old, and I think that there was players on that team who they're missing, Andy Sullivan being one of them, and Kingsbury should also be a leader on that team who's been on the team for a long enough time where Casey Kruger, those are the people who are leaders, and Trinity Rodman, yes, she's obviously went to the Olympics, won the Olympics with the USA, and has really burst onto the scene, but she's still maturing as a football player and is not where we need her to be at this point.
Yeah. Casey Kruger played outstanding, but when can you not say that? I think players voted her the most difficult defender to play against in a 1v1 situation. And I'm so glad she's finally getting her flowers. I think I've said this on the podcast before, but it just needs to be said again. The move from Chicago to Washington has been the best thing for Casey Kruger's career. I think she's being seen in a new light now because, no offense, Chicago's been pretty trash. And when your team is at the bottom of the table and your defense is getting destroyed, it's kind of hard for national teams to select you out of that. And this move to Washington has just been incredible for her. Her game hasn't changed. She's doing the same thing she's been doing, but I think she's just being seen more. And I love that for her. She has been, in my opinion, the player that is an MVP that we have not spoken about collectively as an NWSL fandom. enough this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Casey Kruger has been really, really solid this season, has got her national team call-ups as deserved, and is a left back that can play left back for the US, not just a striker who we're fitting in as a left back, you know. And I mean, I say that because England are having similar problems at left back. So yeah, she's been a leader, a mature defender, and when the ultimate compliment you can get is when an attacker says you're the hardest player to beat. So I think that's kudos to her, and hopefully she's gonna push on and get what she deserves next season with the Spirit, because they're a growing team and they're going to come back next year and be, you know, even better than they were this year with the rookies that they've got. And it's going to be really exciting next year because Kansas is obviously going to be reeling that they didn't do better than they did, because they had so much potential and promise. And in the end, they lost to Orlando, the eventual winners, which is, you know, nothing to be ashamed of. And then Orlando is going to come back and Gotham's going to come back, because Gotham also had a good season this year. And so it's going to be really exciting and to see what the other teams do to build on their seasons. You know, I think that the Bay Area team is someone who could do really well next season too. Yeah. Build on what they did in their, you know, their first year. They did such a great job in their first year and had a really good season. And I'm looking for San Diego to bounce back. I mean, they had a really poor season. I blame the firing of Casey Stoney for that. A terrible 100%. Terrible footballing decision.
I'm trying to think of a worse decision in recent history, and I can't really think of one.
Neither can I. It was just such a terrible decision on their part to do what they did, and then I didn't understand the rationale of bringing in Landon Donovan either. Like,
me neither.
What's his credentials?
There were none.
I like Landon Donovan as a person, but like I just didn't get the whole rationale and what I think Jill Ellis is a big driver in that decision. And
I don't think we're going to see San Diego back competing with the top of the table until they can get that piece sorted out. Because, and this is actually a really great way to end it, now that there are no drafts, it is up to these teams to go out and sign and recruit players, and you have to make a player want to play there. And what is San Diego going to offer if there's no stability in the head coaching role? We haven't even spoken about their home field in Snapdragon Stadium that it's constantly being complained about. There's no stability in the front office. And in fact, there's the opposite of that. There's still allegations and a lot of stuff flying around over there. And that's really hard to draw players, especially when there's a Southern California team just about an hour up the road that they could go to if they want to play in Southern California. So I don't think we're going to see San Diego, but I do think we're going to see a lot of teams in a different offseason making big moves. And I'm really excited. This is the first time that the NWSL offseason is going to look like a WSL offseason, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and Angel City also making moves with their new facility. The training ground looks amazing, the women's specific training ground. And they're a team also who is on the verge of doing something big. They just need to get it right on the field. They're not getting it right on the field right now. And that's obviously the biggest piece, because if you don't have a successful team on the field, it's hard to fill seats in the stadium and the revenue coming from that and be successful. So I'm hoping for them too, because I do like them. And I think that they're trending in the right direction. They're trending towards what Casey did this season with their stadium and their facilities specific for women in terms of their training facilities. So it's exciting. Obviously, this is an exciting time for women's sport in general. So I hope that we see this continuation of the NWSL being successful, because the viewership has also increased this year, primarily because of the networks that the games were put on, and the accessibility was a lot easier. I think that the quality of the production was so much better too. We talked about this at the beginning of the season, so we have to kind of talk about it now. Was it successful? I think it was, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think the quality of production completely outweighed what our main concern was, which was there's 4 different hosts. How are we going to know when it's on which channel? You know what? Unfortunately, we're all very used to trying to look up and see where it is. And it was a very quick look up and then a much better production. I could not agree more.
Can we just mention Barbara Banda? Because Barbara Banda did get overlooked for a lot of the awards this year. And she's been so good. We kind of forgot how. I mean, we talked about her mid-year.
Didn't she win MVP of the whole entire NWSL?
She won MVP of the game. It wasn't MVP of the
Oh
entire
no,
WSL. That was
did.
Chawinga who did. So, like, she won MVP for the game. Like, okay, fair enough. But I don't know. I feel like Barbara Band has been
I
done a
agree.
little bit dirty this season in terms of being overlooked. They've won the Shield. They've won playoffs. She's scored the winning goal. She's been phenomenal all year. I mean, Chawinga deserves all of the props also, don't get me wrong. And I think that these players should be really celebrated. And I want to celebrate Barbara Banda also to the level that we're celebrating Chawinga because she's been phenomenal too.
Couldn't agree more. Final question. NYFC, the MLS team in New York, is building a big stadium out in Queens. Will Gotham and should Gotham move from New Jersey out to that stadium? Should they stay in Red Bull Arena or should they build a stadium of their own?
They should move to the NYCFC stadium because building a facility of your own, you have to build it in New York City. Like, you'd have to build it in the boroughs to be successful. This is where the market is. And I say that as somebody who's traveled frequently to New Jersey, to Red Bull Arena to watch Gotham play. You bring this to the city, you're going to get the crowds. You will. And I think they have to partner with NYCFC. The stadium is going to bring football to the boroughs and they're going to stop playing in baseball stadiums finally. I mean, the men's, obviously, this is an MLS team that's funding this, but it's costing a phenomenal amount of money. And I don't know if a women's team could afford to build a stadium in New York City at this stage. We're still growing. And this would be a really good opportunity for them to move into the city, see what the interest is, because I think it would be really high, and then go from there. We're seeing, obviously, Brooklyn FC, which is the USL team, really sort of struggling to find a home because there's no soccer-specific stadiums. Yeah, there's none. They can't go any. They're playing at baseball field in the spring. They played at a university in the fall. The university stadium doesn't hold a lot of people, as we can attest. We went to watch them play that game, last game of the season, their last home game. It was fun, but again, it's like there's nowhere for men or women's teams in the city to play in soccer-specific stadiums. So this is huge for both, and I think that Gotham needs to jump on it now.
Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. Starting off with the WSL, there was just one WSL game this past weekend. Chelsea and United played their match that had been rescheduled from match day 3. Chelsea took the 3 points with a 1-0 win at home before international break. Chelsea now sit 5 points above second place City in the WSL table, while United are even on points with Arsenal, sitting at 5th and 4th place respectively underneath Brighton. And over to Mexico, La Liga MX held Leg 1 of the final of the Apertura on Friday and Leg 2 on Monday. Leg 1 saw Tigres beat Monterrey 1-0, but Leg 2 ended 3-2 in favor of Monterrey, making the aggregate score 3-3 and forcing the game into penalty kicks. Monterrey emerged victorious on pens 4-3 and wins the Apertura. And finally to Germany, the Frauen Bundesliga has arguably the most exciting race at the top. Wolfsburg sit in first place with 25 points, but 3 teams sit just 2 points behind them, all locked even on 23 points. Those 3 teams include Bayern Munich, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Leverkusen. It's a 4-team race in Germany, and it's anybody's league.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Let's talk international break. And I'm even more excited about it right now than I usually am. And it's because the U.S. women's national team are actually currently, as we speak, already over across the pond in England. They will travel to England for a game this Saturday, November 30th at Wembley that you mentioned is, I think it's completely sold out, almost sold out. 70,000 tickets right now have been sold. Don't know how big Wembley is. I think it's closer to 90. Is that right, Amy?
90,000, yeah.
Yeah. And then the U.S. will head over to the Netherlands. Two big tests for the U.S. women's national team. England will be tested hosting the USA, and then they will also host Switzerland. That will be on Tuesday of next week. Okay, there's a lot here, Amy, because I want to talk about the preview. I want to preview the game, but I think in doing so, we'll end up talking about the rosters. So we don't necessarily have to do like call up specific, but when you looked at who was being called up, let's do England first. Were there any holes for you? Were there any surprises, good and bad? And how are you generally feeling about this squad that, let's be honest, has been stumbling through their games recently?
Yeah, I'm not super happy about England's defensive performances. I think we've been defensively very poor in the last few games. So that's a real concern for me. And the roster reflects injuries. It doesn't really reflect much else. And so does the US roster, to be honest. Both rosters like savaged by injury. And we're not going to see two like strong teams out there or the strongest teams that they could put out there. England is missing Hemp, who has been arguably the player of the season so far in the WSL and for England. They're missing Toon, who's a big piece of the midfield. Sarina does love Toon. And I think she started the season well at Man United. I can't say she hasn't. So she's going to be an important miss for them. Defensively, so frail. But I am happy with the Gabby George call-up because we need a left back. And Gabby George is left-footed. So finally we have somebody in there who's a left back, who plays left back for Man United and has just come back from an ACL injury, but has played pretty much the whole season so far and is doing really well. So I think that's a deserved call-up for me. I feel like Sarina loves Leah Williamson, and rightly so, but Leah Williamson's had a torrid season for both Arsenal and England so far.
Leah Williamson has had a really hard time refinding her form after tearing her ACL, and that's understandable, but we have to be honest in the fact that she's not the player right now that she was before she tore her ACL. And I think both Arsenal and England are expecting her to be. And that's honestly maybe even weighing on it and making it harder. There's not a lot of freedom in that when she feels like she has to perform up to a standard that she's just not simply at yet.
No, she's not there. And pairing her with Millie Bright, who also spent the majority of the time on the touchline with an injury as well, those two coming back, they just look disjointed. Bright looked slow in the last game against Germany. A lot of people blame Williamson, but Bright was equally as poor. I just thought the back line was poor against Germany.
So that leads me to also ask you about Alex Greenwood as you answer this. Yeah,
like Alex Greenwood has been phenomenal for Man City this season, and she started every game in the World Cup for us and got us to the final. And here we are, just being like, okay, Greenwood, back to the bench for you now, which I think is totally unfair for her. When she came on against Germany, she gave us a little bit of stability, to be honest, and I think we needed that. We also need pace. Get out pace so much. It's crazy. I just worry for our back four that Lucy Bronze, who's aging, Millie Bright, who's slow, Leah Williamson struggling to find her form, and then Jess Carr out at left back, who that's not her position. It just was very disjointed against Germany. And I'm happy we've got Gabby George there because I think that could give us a little bit of a left-footed player who's not playing out of position, who doesn't, it's not a square peg and round hole, somebody who's comfortable there, who looks comfortable there. And then I think you have to move Williamson out of the back four and put Greenwood in there. And I think
in the center back role.
Yeah, and I think Williamson should go in as a holding centre mid.
This is what I've been saying. I think that's her better position anyways. And listen, Millie Bright and Leah Williamson are a great center back pairing when they are both healthy and at their best. And when they are not, it is the worst combination for exactly what you just said. You don't get the pace with Millie Bright, and then Leah Williamson, who's coming back into her form, can't cover for that. I loved I think it was before the World Cup, England were trying out what it might look like with Leah Williamson at that holding center mid, or like even a double pivot, 3 center mid, whatever it was. It was 5 midfielders across the board. And I loved that. Like Leah Williamson sitting in the holding position, maybe even alongside Kira Walsh, and put Georgia Stanway up there. I don't care. Create a box in the middle and put Georgia Stanway up there next to Grace Clinton, who's been phenomenal. I'm excited to see her as well. I think that Sarina's been too stubborn in her formation and her lack of ability to change. And we saw this with the U.S. women's national team, and Vlatko Ananovsky was unwilling to change formations based on the personnel. And it was the death of the U.S. women's national team. And I hope Sarina is more flexible in this, and we see her trying things out right now against the U.S. women's national team in Switzerland in this international break.
I think she has the potential to do it, and we've seen her do it before. I just think she has to be patient with it, because it's not going to be something that's going to happen like overnight. With these international breaks, you only get a very small amount of time with the players to make the system happen. And it's going to take time. It's not like you're working with them day in, day out like they are at club level. So I agree fully. I think Williamson needs to come in, because Walsh and Stanway are not two of the best defenders we'll ever see. Somebody who's breaking up the play. I mean, Stanway is an unreal player. Don't get me wrong. I think Stanway has been phenomenal for Munich this season and for England also. She's up there with Hemp as, contender for player of the season for me. But what she gives you attacking wise, can't take that away from her by asking her to be that defensive player, because it just stifles her. And then a lot of teams are now figuring out, okay, Kira Walsh is the ball player, we're going to mark her. Well, if you have Williamson in there too, Williamson can play between the lines as well. So I think it solves some problems. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. And I think Sarina does need to be more flexible and try these things and try these systems. And I don't know if she's going to be brave enough to do it against the US, because the US is a really good team and I can see her being more conservative, but maybe try it against Switzerland.
That's the moment it needs to be done, though.
But I can't see her doing it. I just can't.
What else are you going to learn, though, when you put the same team that played Germany and you just put them against the U.S. women's national? You're not going to learn anything new. You already learned that against Germany. Go learn something else. I don't know. I'm going to be really upset if England come out in a 4-3-3. I'm going to be texting you very angrily about Sarina and England, but who knows? At this point, because I'm saying this, they're going to come out in a 4-3-3 and they're going to destroy the U.S. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know, because we're missing Hemp, and I think Hemp's just a huge piece of the puzzle on that side. I know Chloe Kelly can slide in and likely will slide in, so it'll be Kelly and Mead that will play. Jessica Naz has been doing a great job for Tottenham as well and deserves her opportunities. I'm happy that Russo's been amongst the goals for Arsenal. I think that that's really important for her on the international stage. She's a good finisher when she gets her opportunities, and I think under Jonas she was struggling. She was struggling for form and struggling for him to back her. I mean, yeah, obviously a lot of the players were struggling under Jonas, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sarina kept it, but I'm hoping that she doesn't for all us England fans' sake, because I cannot watch another defensive display like the one we've seen against South Africa. We were poor. Any pace against us, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble, and we're lucky because the US is missing pretty much all of their pacey players up front.
Yeah, I was just about to say, well, let's see. Mal Swanson is not in camp. Trinity Rodman is not in camp. Yeah, Sophia Smith is not in camp. I appreciate what Hayes has done here. You look across the board at who's been called up, and there's only 3 players, 2 from Washington Spirit and 1 from Orlando Pride, that were called into this camp. And Emma Hayes is very intentional with saying, I'm not going to put too many minutes on your body. If you're exhausted, if you're maybe on the verge of an injury, if you're healing a little bit, which a lot of these players are, having just played in a final or a semifinal, you're not coming into camp. And that's what a lot of this has been. And she's been really outspoken with that, which I think all U.S. women's national team fans appreciate, because previous coaches would have just run these players into the ground with no care. And it's clear, even from this decision, that Emma Hayes is invested in not just the long-term growth of the program, but the long-term health and growth of these players individually and their development, which is wonderful to see. But that also gives room for some first-time call-ups, and there are a lot of them. I'm going to start with a keeper. I'm so happy Fallon Tillis-Joyce got her call-up.
Love that for Tillis-Joyce. She's been good. She's been really good for Man United this season. And I know they bought her in this intention that Mary Epps was going to leave, because we knew Mary Epps was going to leave. And she waited and bided her time and didn't complain that she was the second choice keeper. Now she's come in, and we knew she was going to be quality. I mean, those of us who watched the NWSL knew she was going to be a good goalkeeper. I mean, I certainly did. I wasn't worried. People who didn't know her before were like, oh, who is this goalkeeper? Is she any good? But she's good. And she's young too. So she's still got the opportunity to learn and grow. She's been doing everything right for Man United. I mean, I know this weekend she gave away a penalty, but like, besides that, this is a really good opportunity for her to come into this camp, learn and grow under the goalkeepers that are already there.
Who doesn't want to be training with Alyssa Nair if you're a young goalkeeper? Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't have said that, probably 4 years ago, but now here we are saying Alyssa Nair, top goalkeeper she is.
I would have. You would not have. No, I never understood the hate around Alyssa Nair. But I'm happy she's won everybody over.
It wasn't a hate. It was more like lack of confidence, I think.
Okay.
I'll say that because, I'm a huge Hope Solo fan. Not for her personality or any of those glowing traits, but just there's never going to be a goalkeeper as good as Hope Solo.
It's a tough job, Alyssa Nair, to step into those shoes, especially with how Hope Solo left the national team. And if you haven't watched the documentary, I can't say I super recommend it, but it was a good watch if you're bored. All right. I'll just list two other players, and then I want to talk about them in the game. Of course, notably, Lily Johannes will be playing with the U.S. Women's National Team for the first time since she has made her decision. That's wonderful. And then first time call up for Ali Sentnor from the Utah Royals. She's in that forward group. I think the biggest question mark around the U.S. here in this is, well, first of all, it's important to say we shouldn't be results focused right now for the U.S. Women's National Team. This is the start of the cycle to 2027. And because of that, we can't just look at results. We can't live and die with that. We have to live and die with, how did these players perform? Are they growing from game to game? Can players slot into a system? We're watching what Emma Hayes is developing tactically as a system. But no, we already mentioned how many star forwards are gone. Question becomes where the goals are going to come from.
Well, I think to your point, this is what you guys have been crying out for years and years, is a coach who wants to come in and wants to see everybody, wants to give everybody an opportunity, even in the big games. And I think this squad, obviously, because of the fact the NWSL final fell where it fell, and she's being very mindful of not destroying the players, which is smart. Why would you? It's a friendly at the end of the day. It's not a competitive fixture.
Although it's hard to, when you get competitive, it's hard to stay in that mindset of this is a friendly, this is the goal. When you're like, I want to go into Wembley and beat England.
Well, yeah, especially for her because she's English. So I feel like that she's still going to put out a team that's going to be super competitive. And any Emma Hayes team is not going to get turned over. She's going to be very thoughtful about who she selects and the formation and the players she slots in, potentially going to be on their debut and where they play, how long they play. So I think that for your perspective as a US fan, you're probably not worried. Whereas for me as an England fan, I'm more concerned about where we're going and what our directionality is.
Because part of that, I'm guessing, is because you are not in the build-up to 2027. You're in the build-up to Euros 2025, and you have less than a year left. You've got half a year left. And it's understandable to say this isn't where the squad should be in this moment before a major tournament.
Yeah, and it's worrying. And he has time to put it right, but this is where it has to start. And so, Emma Hayes has the luxury of being like, okay, well, I have these years where I can just look at all these players and figure it out. And obviously things are going to change over the years. Some players are going to, fall off and other players are going to emerge. But this is good. This is really good for the US. And again, as much as it pains me, you're kind of back as a powerhouse in the world where you fell off for a bit, and you're going to be the team again to beat. I mean, Spain is also very, very good, and we've ended up drawing them in our Nations League group, which is great for us. We've got the group of death again somehow in the Nations League. But these are all good competitions that we need to be involved in, and it provides us with good tests in the build up to big competitions, which is what you need. And this is a big test for the US too, coming into Wembley in front of I think there's 80,000 tickets sold. In front of 80,000 fans in a hostile atmosphere. England fans don't like the US, vice versa. And Emma
I don't
Hayes
think we
is
minded
homecoming.
you guys until you started picking fights with us.
Well, I think it all started with the Alex Morgan teacup thing, which kind of annoyed people, let's be honest.
It annoyed all of you. I was like, this is so jovial. I rooted for England in the Euros. And now
it's jovial when you're winning and beating us. Like, we're not going to think it's jovial when you're beating us in a semi-final of the World Cup.
It's good for the game, though. I do feel like since the Euros, the rivalry and the competition, maybe it was like there was a lot of distaste for the U.S. on England's side. I don't think we super cared.
We didn't take us seriously. Because we weren't a serious football nation. Now we are. You're like, okay, we're worried about England now.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And that's great. That's great for the game. Pre-2022, I don't think it would have been a big thing for the U.S. to go play England in England.
No, you probably would have beaten us. Like, I don't know. I mean, there were some games where we beat you and we turned you over and it was like, what's happening here? Like, I think there was one game we beat you 3-1 and that was like prior to the 2019 World Cup. And everybody was like,
literally... It was the She Believes Cup right before 2019, and it was the only thing I heard about from any English person for 2 years.
Oh, no, that was when we beat you in the US. We beat you in England as well once, where it was like 3-1 or something. But yeah, that game where Ellen White scored, it was like the 90-something minute. I was there. I was at that game. It was great for me, obviously.
But that says it all. Like,
yeah. But that's all our success.
Exactly.
But now we're successful because we are the European champions, and it's like you're the Olympic champions. So there's going to be this... this edge to the game that wasn't there before. And it's good. It's good for supporters to be like, nah, we don't like them. We don't like them. Like, but we don't like you because we appreciate that you're successful and we don't want you to beat us and we don't want you to continue to be, we want to be successful. So it's good to have those rivalries in football, and it obviously fuels crowds. And we have 80,000 people showing up, potentially maybe 90,000 people by the time all is said and done. But it's going to be a really great night.
Help it be 80,002.
We could. Yeah, you're right. If you're going to pay for my plane ticket, let's go. Let's just do it. What we got to lose? We'll take the Thanksgiving break and we'll go there. Celebrate Thanksgiving in England when it's not even a holiday, but we'll be there.
I'm not going to lie. And I don't know if any of my family listens to this, don't take this personally, but that sounds a lot better than Thanksgiving right now.
It's true. It does. I mean, Thanksgiving is going to be fun, but I'd much rather be watching England versus the US in England, to be fair. And we can have a roast dinner at my mum's house instead, just to make up for it,
So, you know what? For my one roast in England, better than Thanksgiving dinner. I'm going to say it.
Thank you.
It really is. All right. That's it for us this week here at the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
I've been Amy.
Thanks, everybody.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.